All right, today we're talking about something pretty huge. It's the moment AI stops just knowing things and starts actually doing things for you. So let's dive in and see exactly how that works.
You've been there, right? You ask your AI for something you need right now, like a train ticket for tomorrow, and you get this totally useless answer about yesterday's schedule. It's so frustrating. But what if instead you got this on the right? Real-time specific information right down to the number of seats left. Well, this isn't science fiction. It's the difference between the AI we have and a new system called TURA.
And that really gets to the heart of the matter. Why are these incredibly powerful AI assistants so often stuck in the past? Well, the answer has everything to do with how they get their information.
You see, most of the AI search tools you use today, whether it's in your favorite search engine or a chatbot, are built on a technology called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG for short.
Now, what RAG basically does is it works from a snapshot. It's like it took a picture of the internet at one point in time. The AI retrieves answers from this massive but ultimately static library. And that's fine for facts that don't change, but for anything live, like ticket availability or the weather, it's completely useless.
The best way to think about it is like this. RAG is a brilliant librarian, for sure, but they're in a library where every single book was printed last month. They can tell you anything you want to know about what was true then. But ask about today's news or tomorrow's train schedule, they just have to shrug. They're stuck.
But what if we could give that librarian some new tools, a way to connect to the outside world? Well, this is exactly where a new, groundbreaking framework called TURA comes into play.
TURA stands for Tool-Augmented Unified Retrieval Agent. And that very first word is the magic word, tool. Instead of being trapped inside that static library of old information, TURA gives the AI external tools, things like a direct line into a train company's booking system, so it can get live up to the second date.
So, let's go back to our librarian. TURA is what happens when you hand that librarian a smartphone with a contact list of real-world experts. So now when you ask about the train schedule, they don't go looking in some dusty old book. Nope, they pick up the phone and call the train station directly. They can actually act to get you what you need.
So how does this all work under the hood? I mean, it's not just about giving the AI a phone. It's about turning it into a brilliant, super efficient project manager. TURA uses a really clever three-step master plan to get stuff done.
First, it acts like a smart dispatcher, figuring out what you actually need. Then it turns into an efficient project manager, planning the absolute fastest way to do it. And finally, it becomes a fast and focused executor, carrying out that plan without any delay.
Okay, let's break down step one. When you give TURA a big, complex query like, hey, plan my trip to Beijing, the smart dispatcher immediately breaks it down. It goes, okay, that means find the weather, find cool attractions, and book a hotel. Then the really smart part, it matches each of those little jobs to the perfect tool for the task.
Now, a more traditional AI would look at that list of tasks and just start at the top. It would tackle them one by one by one. It's logical, sure, but it's also incredibly slow.
So it would first find the hotel, and once that's finished, then it would start looking for attractions. And only after all of that is done would it even think about planning a route. You'd be sitting there, waiting forever.
TURA, on the other hand, is way smarter. It uses something called the DAG-based Task Planner. Now, don't get hung up on the name. The brilliant part is that it looks at all the tasks and figures out which ones don't depend on each other, and it just runs them all in parallel at the same time.
Just think about it for a second. Finding a hotel and finding local attractions are totally independent jobs, right? TURA gets that, so it does both at the exact same time, which just massively cuts down your waiting time. It only pauses when it absolutely has to, like, waiting to get the addresses for both the hotel and the attraction before it plans the route between them. It's just efficient.
And that brings us to step 3, execution. Using one of those giant, super powerful AI models for every tiny little task is, well, it's overkill. It's slow and it's expensive. So TURA uses this amazing technique called distillation. It takes a huge teacher model and uses it to train a much smaller, specialized student agent. This little student learns all the reasoning from the teacher, but it becomes right-weight, laser-focused, and lightning-fast.
So this all sounds fantastic in theory, doesn't it? But does it actually work in the real world? Well, the results are in, and they are impressive.
And let's be clear, this is not just some research paper or a lab experiment. TURA has been fully deployed inside a major AI search product since May of 2025. It's already been used by tens of millions of real people.
And just look at these results. In head-to-head tests, the old RAG system got the answer right about 65% of the time. TUSFORA, 87.5%. That's a massive jump in accuracy. It just proves that using the right tool for the job is way better than trying to guess from an old web page.
And this isn't just about some technical score. People actually felt the difference. In live A/B testing, TURA saw an almost 9% increase in what's called session success rate. That's a fancy way of saying people were way more likely to get an answer that actually helped them finish what they were trying to do.
And remember that super smart parallel planner? Well, here's the payoff. For those complex multi-step questions, TURA was a whopping 44% faster than the old one-by-one approach. That's the real-world difference between a frustrating wait and a totally seamless experience.
But honestly, this might be the most mind-blowing result of them all. Remember that small student agent we talked about? Not only was it more than 10 times faster than its giant teacher model, it was actually more accurate. Think about that. The small, efficient, focus model ended up outperforming the massive model it learned from. Wow.
So what does this all mean? What's the big picture here? Well, it signals a really fundamental shift in what we should expect from our AIs.
The researchers behind TURA really said it best in their paper. They call this a paradigm shift from passive information retrieval to active tool-augmented systems. In other words, we are moving away from an AI that just passively knows stuff to an AI that actively does stuff. So the real takeaway is this. We're right on the edge of a new era. An era of AI assistants that can actually book your flights, manage your schedule, and interact with the live, dynamic world on your behalf. And that leaves us with one final, very exciting question. If your AI can truly do things and not just know them, what's the first problem you're going to solve?